Cal, your future is sorted. You've signed a new deal with the club until May 2026. You must be pleased to have got that sorted and also to have been given that trust of that extension from the board.
Yeah, really pleased. Something that we'd spoke about since the end of last season. I think you need a little bit of time to digest last season, refresh, re-energise, and it felt like with pre-season starting last week it was the right time to sort of get sorted. I think it demonstrates my commitment to what we want to do here, and that is to turn the football club into a National League club. That is the aim and the outcome for me, and I believe we can do that here at Chester. I have my own ambitions, but this is about the club and where we can take the club and where the club can go, and I'm really excited about that. Last season was exactly the same in that my relationship with the club, I'd never want it to be a position where they would want to go in a different direction for any reason, and finances, meaning that ultimately if they ever wanted to make a change. So I put something in my contract last year, and I've done it this year, that if for whatever reason the club ever wanted to go in a different direction, they're not held to anything ridiculous, because I think that's really important, and that is something that I've just tried to demonstrate my commitment by signing the terms of the deal, and equally my commitment to the club as someone that's been around a long time, because I know that matters to people, that 3 years is really exciting and brilliant if it goes well, which I'm really confident it will, and I'm excited. I was excited when I did a first interview with you 12 months ago, and I'm even more excited now. But the club is always very much in my heart. I never make a secret of that. I'm very fond of the football club that have been brilliant for me, and I'd never enter into anything that doesn't protect them, for obvious reasons.
Obviously, it was a season of real progress here last term. I think that was the buzzword that came out of last season. You must reflect with immense pride on what you achieved in the first 12 months in charge.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time to get over a playoff semi-final defeat 12 months after losing in a playoff final at your previous club. And for me, there was a disappointment. It wasn't our time. That's football, and you've seen top clubs, top teams around the world at different levels. We came up short in a playoff semi-final, and that stings. As much as it defines the season in terms of promotion, you have to reflect on that word that I used a lot, progress. It was a mammoth task 12 months ago, real mammoth task, and this is, I hope, the last time I'm going to talk about that, and the last time I'm going to use it as a reference point, because we're moving on and we're moving forwards, and for me the next chapter for the football club has started. And what we were able to do last year for me was restore some positivity around the place. I think there'd been a culture that had developed around the club, and that is inside, outside, supporters, everyone associated with the club, everyone that matters, where we just needed a bit of a spark to be lit. And I think what the players did and the performance of that team did that. And you look at some brilliant moments, that away record, that Oldham FA Cup tie, almost restoring a bit of pride, but actually a bit of belief, I think, more than anything else. So when I reflect on last season, everyone will have their moments, and I look at brilliant moments for individuals, brilliant moments for the group. I look at it as building blocks and foundations being put in place. We achieved a third place finish after a disjointed season before, a summer of real transition. There's continuity in place now. There is building blocks, extensively developed building blocks, where for me the position that we're starting from this summer, this pre-season, is unrecognisable to 12 months ago. I look at what we achieved and the building blocks that we put in place, and excitement is certainly the word for me.
Obviously, you turn to that new chapter. There was a lot achieved last year, and we come into a new season now with the league looking slightly different. Two sides with, shall we say, significant resources have moved up a division. Do you think that those sort of types of promotions and the way the league looks next year, and in terms of the progress and the strides you've made with your team over the past 12 months, does that make us a bit more of a target going into this campaign, and does that bring a mentality change of sorts?
I think that is my message, and my message to the players during the early stages of the pre-season programme. It's probably for the first time now my message to our supporters, and it's something that we've spoken internally about as a staff, involving our board. I think we've shown how big we are as a club. I think we really have in the last 12 months. You only have to look at the engagement from the supporters of other clubs. There are almost a fascination of engaging with us and what we do and what we say. That is a reflection on what we are at the moment. So I look at that from last season, at times we were always up against it. We didn't have a great start to the campaign. We were often trying to turn things around. So a lot of our messaging was, look where we were last season, look where we are now. That's not the case now. For me, we want to maintain being a top end National League North club, because that's how you get promotion. So the message is simple: maintain to then improve, but embrace what we are now. Embrace that we will have a target on our back of, look where we were last season, look what we've done with those things I referenced earlier. And embrace it. Embrace that we're Chester Football Club. We know where we want to be. Speaking about promotion now isn't far-fetched. I think 12 months ago it was, and I was really, really honest that the size of the club didn't count for anything 12 months ago. It does now. Look at the crowds, look at the engagement with the club, and I think you can see the way we're spoken about externally, what we've achieved. Our players need to embrace that. I'm certainly going to embrace that. You've seen, I know the way I might have spoke early on last season when we're trying to put things in place and working from a really challenging position. Well, that's not the case now. There is a confidence. That confidence can breed success. Success is what we all crave. So it's brilliant. You saw that towards the end of the campaign when certain things I might have said might have ended up coming out of other people's mouths as well. And you've got to enjoy that. That is when you know that you are on a road to achieving things, and we're really, really pleased with what we did achieve. But the end goal, it will become really, really clear. So you talk about mentality, it's about behaviours for me. And if we want to be a club that, and I mean club, not just a team, as a club, if we want to be in the division above, what behaviours have we got to demonstrate? What successes we've got to achieve during the season? We've shown what we can do last season. The continuity, with the right mentality, the right resources, a serious amount of commitment, then you never know where we might go.
Let's talk about recruitment so far. Obviously, a key part of that is obviously a lot of familiar faces have returned. It's that continuity that a lot of clubs talk about. Back in pre-season training over the past week, it must be pleasing then to have kept on those players, but then add to it with some quality new additions.
Delighted with retention first. I said something similar, one of the shorter chats that we had during the close season. I'm really pleased to have been able to retain the vast majority of a squad that achieved a third place finish last season. That for us, you look historically for the club, ultimately when we've been able to do that, even before my time, season to season, we've been able to have a better campaign. To have that continuity, to have obviously seen some players move on for a variety of reasons, for us to have been able to keep that real core group, a group that in my opinion we're improving all the time. If you think about where we were after 12 games compared to where we were after 46, that demonstrates consistent improvement. So to be able to keep that group, for them to be a year older, a year stronger, a year more experienced, a year better, to be in that position is really, really pleasing. But then what that lets you do when you're able to keep the core of the group is be really targeted in our recruitment, and I was so clear about what we wanted player-wise. Both the individuals but profile. So we've gone, for me, we brought 4 to the football club over the summer. Obviously 𝗜παιＨ𝘁𝗲𝗿𝗃 and 𝗜παιH𝘁𝗲𝗿𝗃𝗏, well known to our supporters, real dynamic players that contributed significantly towards the back end of the season, and I know how important they'll be. They will only be better for being in our environment permanently. They will be able to contribute to our environment even more, so we're really pleased. Joel Taylor was a massive one. Delighted to have got Joel. He's obviously well known to our supporters, very, very popular, and when a player of his quality comes along, you want to do it. Our conversation's really, really easy. His affection for the club comes through, and I know he'll have an absolutely massive campaign for us. That was an area we felt we could add to in terms of experience, athleticism, and obviously Zach Goodson, who is goals, assists, creativity in a forward area. I'm really clear on what else we need. Want to add to that position. Ideally we'd do 2 more, but I'm not in a rush to do that. If the season started tomorrow, I'd be delighted with our group, and I mean that, absolutely delighted. What I think we did really well last year was add when A, we needed to add, but B, when the right players were available. I don't think it's a case of we've had a really successful boost the budget campaign, things have been quiet for a little bit, so let's go and sign a player, let's go and see who can we sign. You look at Kieran Coates' contribution last season. I mentioned 𝗜παιH𝘁𝗃𝗿𝗃 and 𝗜παιH𝘁𝗿𝗃𝗏 in terms of 2 loan signings. Those players were brought in after the start of the season, in terms of when they came in and really contributed. So for me, I'm quite relaxed, not in a rush to do anything. I know what we want. We've got some targets, but we won't rush into doing anything. And I know at times that's almost a bit boring, and I get that, especially when there's no games and people are desperate for that fix and what's going on from the club. I just feel we've earned a little bit of credit with our recruitment in the way we've acted, in the way we've conducted ourselves, and we'll continue to act in that way, which is what's right for the football club longer term. So really pleased with the group, delighted with the way they've come back. We look fit, we look strong, and delighted to see how that group progress together, because it's an outstanding group of players and people that we're able to retain. We've done the work to bring the right players in so far, and we'll keep continuing in the same vein in terms of how we recruit.
The fans have certainly played their part as well. 116k on Boost the Budget, 1,800 season tickets, which is certainly a reformed club record. I think a few people have probably pointed out it's probably a club record as well. It's been a summer where, you know, they've shown their backing to you as well, obviously with last season and the progress that was made, and ultimately an excitement about what could happen this year.
I think you need to separate the two. I think firstly, let's look at what the engagement around the season tickets and the Boost the Budget represents. A spark has been lit around the football club, and that is an absolute collective effort. I think a massive part of that is what the team did last season, and those players, even those players that have moved on from the football club, deserve massive credit for taking that challenge on. That was the challenge we had 12 months ago, is actually get on the bus, this is where we want to go, this is what we want to try and achieve, let's move forwards. Now, we fell short in a playoff campaign, but the strides that were made in terms of positivity and moving things forward, that togetherness, that real unity is the word that I've used quite a lot. We've hammered that home, and I think that is now so obvious around the club. Equally, massive strides around the place to how we want to be, the type of outfit that we want to be. There's obvious things the football club need to do better. We've taken a bit of a kick in at times during the summer for stuff that I'm the football manager and I'm not going to comment on. What kills me is I see how hard people around the football club work, how active we are within our community. Some very good people around the football club trying to do what they can, and a lot of good work over a 12-month period. Doesn't come down to 90 minutes against Brackley. That's really exciting. I then look at the other side of it and go, 1,800 season tickets, that's phenomenal. No other club at this level can do that. I then look at the thousands, the tens of thousands that have been raised by our supporters in a really difficult climate. That's what they are. That is why we feed off it. It's why the rapport between the players and the supporters has been as strong as it is, because our supporters are outstanding for the backing for us, and I'm really touched by it. What I really understand, and I really do, I was quite clear about this 12 months ago when we first spoke. I want £2 of value for every pound that we spend. I will not waste that money. That is my commitment. So that's why we're in no rush. That's why we're patient. We make sure every investment that we make in terms of a player, whatever it is, whether we're out buying beans and toast for players' food, whether it's players, whatever we go and spend our money on, we want value for it, and that's always been my attitude. I actually think that's a really creative way of saying I'm tight and I don't like spending money, but I know what that money's for, I know how best to use it, and I'm really pleased. And that, it is kind of a message to the supporters that the energy that they created around the football club, they more than played their part. Don't underestimate that. There was an outstanding team that deserved massive credit, and I'll keep going back to that and that point of some of those players are no longer with us, but what they did last season was at an important crossroads for the football club, in my opinion. I look at where we are now, and I think we've got a real opportunity. That positivity, that energy, what they created alongside the team around the club, the supporters on a match day, the atmosphere, the environment, it was a good place to be last season. Our supporters played a massive part in that. We need that again, because like I mentioned, there's plenty of clubs that they can't do that. They can't. They can find successes in a different way. They can resource things in a different way. Our strength is in our togetherness and our unity, and I can't wait to see what impact that can have on us this season, even from a better starting position than we had the last campaign.
So this one ties quite nicely into recruitment. When we spoke earlier, a new face in a sense is having club captain George Glennon back out on the field, and I see you smile straight away. It must be great having Glennon back in the fold for the upcoming season.
I think firstly, what he won't have externally had any credit for is his contribution around the place last year. he will have wanted his contribution to be 8 goals, 403 assists, because he's that good. He wanted to contribute on the pitch. He really bought into, and by the way, I think you saw a lot of that from the players that we retained from the season before. I put 𝗜παιH and Kev Roberts particularly in that bracket, that I think had excellent campaigns and really wanted to build on what was a disappointing season the season before. But that's gone now. But George's contribution around the place last year, for me, in a new role, was enormous. His personality, for those that have been around George, his personality, his characteristics, he's infectious, and he's a brilliant club captain because of his abilities as a person. This year he gets the chance to demonstrate that as a player, and that is, I know how good he is. I know how strong a midfield of those names that apparently you can't play together can be. I know with the right structure and the right system. But in the same way, we won't rush George back. His rehab, I think the work that the medical team have done is outstanding. I think George's commitment to that equally has been absolutely top drawer. So we're in no rush. I think we'll see the best of him, and don't misquote me on this, we'll see him when the season starts, but we'll see the best of him after Christmas. We have to have some time to get him right and get him ready and get him firing. It's been 12 months without playing. When his quality shines through and that cream that rises to the top, you'll really see that from the January period. But delighted to have him back out on the pitch. Every single manager in the division would love to have George Glennon in the team. I'm delighted to say that we have.
I'm sure a lot of supporters will be curious around the goalkeeping situation this year. Obviously, 𝗜παιH did so well last year on loan from Everton. Stanley is back from a positive loan spell at Macclesfield. We heard from him on that fantastic Seals podcast that everyone should listen to. What is the situation around that? Is Will likely to be the one to pick up that number 1 shirt this year?
Stanley will be our number 1. Really, really pleased to be able to have a goalkeeper to step right into the net for us, that achieved a promotion last year, had 3 loan spells, really successful, where he's raved about. He's a goalkeeper I think a lot of, and he will have been frustrated and disappointed last season that he wasn't playing his football for us. And that can be difficult, and especially as a young player, that can give you a real challenge because he's hungry and he wants to do well. We've had a really, really good close season, me and Will, and I'm really, really excited to see what he'll do for us, because to be able to have a player that won a promotion last year, won a championship last year, had really positive reviews from his loans, and a player that even when we signed 𝗜παιH, we thought a lot of, there was a clear plan to putting him out on loan and getting him games. He'll be better for another year's developing, because he hasn't played so many games at this level of football. To have been able to add an entire season really between step 3 and 4 last campaign really helps his numbers, and he's something that I'm really looking forward to working with. And I know how well he'll do for us. I know how popular he is with our supporters, and I think it's really pleasing that continuity that I spoke about earlier, we can continue with giving Will the number 1 shirt.
Just finally, what are the aims this season for yourself, the staff, the players, the club as a whole?
Win every single game and score in the first half of every game. Twice. It's got to be promotion. It's got to be. I think it's always been an ambition. I don't think it's healthy to make that a target because there's so many pieces that can move. I think with a fair wind, good ground and clearing our fences, I think we can have a right good go. I just go back to that last campaign of we were really a side being put together during last pre-season. I had to massively compromise on what I would want to do during a pre-season period last year because we were trying to form a group, we were identifying trialists, we were recruiting as we go because we inherited a difficult scenario. We haven't now. I've inherited a group of players that were mine last season and that I know, and they know what to expect from us. They feel really immersed in the football club and they feel a part of it. Where do we improve? It's really simple. We were 11 points off the top. That's the reality. We were, call it 3 points, I think it's 2.71 points below the average for third place. So we were in and around what is statistically a third place finish year on year in terms of our points return, and we were significantly ahead of 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th. Where do we improve? It's twofold. We need to pick up more points at home. I'm really clear on that, and we need to play a type of football at home that is more expansive and puts teams on the back foot. We need to be creative with how we do that. I see that. I saw that halfway through last season. It's very, very difficult to change the dynamic of a team that are successful, by the way. When you're not losing week in, week out, you're successful, but you can see how you can improve. It's very difficult to do that in January, February time. In the same way, I think we can have a better start to the campaign. I look at our points return. I remember being in a really difficult personal situation ahead of the bank holiday game away at Curzon, but recognising how important it was to the football club with where we were. I remember being 3-0 down against Kings Lynn, and then the Spennymoor game being off in early September, we were able to almost press a bit of a reset. We had a lot of players missing. People often say to me, do you think the Oldham game kick-started the group? I don't think I agree. I think it added real belief. I think in and around that time we were getting some players back fit. I remember playing Darlington here and being edged out 1-0 and being able to get Det Weeks back out on the pitch, Cole Hall back out on the pitch, players that had missed a bit of football for us. If you look at where we were after game 12, you can see how strong we were from game 13 to game 46. So first challenge, maintain what we did and be really clear that those building blocks, let's not undermine them, let's re-establish everything that made us successful as a team, as a group, as a club. Then improve, and it is more points at home. Let's be really real, let's not hide from that now. I want us to have a better point return this season than we have in the previous 2. And in the same way, that started a campaign at home or away. We lost 6 games in the league and we lost 3 of them in the opening 6 games. That says how much we improved. So let's pick up where we left off. I'm excited, you can see it, really confident. I remember in this job and feeling confident but well aware of the challenge ahead. We can do this, the whole football club can do it. I know how strong the team will be, and how committed every single person involved in it is. We can do this ahead of this campaign. I'm here, I back our group. I know how much our supporters will back the club. Let's get ready to do it all again.